Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us at this licensing subcommittee. We will proceed through the checklist with the first item being election of a chair for the proceedings this morning. I would like to put myself forward as chair. Can I get
Yes.
a vote?
I'm very happy to support that, Councillor Keddy.
Many thanks. Okay, I'll now hand over to the clerk to go through our housekeeping rules.
Thank you very much. So please note this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting can also be recorded or streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, or their ultimate discretion in this lies with the chair. For those in the room, please note if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point, which is at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite the building. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum. Mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For everyone in the room, this includes turning off mics and turning the volume down completely on your laptops. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2, apologies. Do we have any apologies for this meeting?
We've had no apologies, Chair.
Subcommittee members, do we have any declarations of interest regarding this case?
No, Chair.
No.
And none from me either. Would those present note the protocol for public speaking at hearings, which was included with the agenda? If that is all in order, we'll move on to the substance of today's subcommittee, which is the application for a new premises licence for Papa John's in Barrack Road, Christchurch. I'll now ask each participant in this subcommittee to introduce themselves and state their role. I am Councillor Alistair Keddy. I'm Licensing Vice Chair and Ward Councillor for Charminster and Queen's Park.
Councillor Chapman Hall for Alderney and Bourne Valley. I'm also a member of the subcommittee.
I'm Councillor Emily Harman. I'm a councillor for Parkstone in Poole. I'm on the licensing committee and this subcommittee today.
Thank you, councillors. Our reserves have taken the option to remove themselves, so they won't require an introduction. I'd like to hand over to the representatives from BCP Council, including our Senior Licensing Officer, Sarah Rogers, who's joining us online via Teams.
Good morning. Yes, Sarah Rogers, Principal Licensing Officer.
Thank you. Linda Cole.
Hello, I'm Linda Cole. I'm legal advisor to the subcommittee this morning.
Thank you. And Jill Hollyoak.
Hi, I'm Jill Hollyoak. I'm the clerk.
Thank you. Okay, so regarding the applicant for the licence, we have notification that they are not attending or seeking a representative to present on their behalf.
No, and they've indicated that they want it determined in their absence.
Okay, thank you. In support of the applicant, we had an independent member of the public, Ms. Deborah Moore, who did indicate that she would attend via Teams this morning. Is that the case?
She is not on the Teams call. We have sent a reminder and we don't have a contact number for her. So without her being here, unless she joins, you can consider the representation that's been submitted in writing.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll be happy to consider the written representation from Ms. Moore. Okay, which brings us to those objecting. We have Paul Barker from a Environmental Health Officer. Thank you. and Mr. Fairbrass, local resident.
Hello, yes, that's me.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning.
So, Chair, just to clarify, Mr. Fairbrass is the person that made the representation that's in the papers. Yep.
I assume so.
You
Yep.
did make the rep.
I did make
Yeah,
a
yeah.
representation. Yeah,
Thank
I don't know
you.
if it's in the papers or not. I can't tell you.
Okay, thank you for that. So before we proceed, I will just check that all persons who have given notice of their intention to speak have been identified, and any person who wishes to withdraw a representation or wishes not to speak has been identified. Okay. As there are no comments, I'll take that as correct. I will now explain the proposed procedure in order of speaking for the hearing. So, we will hear from the licensing officer as she presents her report. That will be followed by questions by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. The applicant would at this point usually make their application, and there would be questions of the applicant by all parties. That is not the case because they have decided to be absent from the proceedings.
Yes, Chair, but if there's anything in their application that, you've got queries on, you might assist you to ask the environmental health officer or the licensing officer. If you need to or would like to.
Absolutely. Next person supporting would make their representation. That would be if Ms. Moore is able to join us online. Questions of the supported by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. Persons objecting will then make their representations and then be questioned by all parties. All parties will be given an opportunity to sum up, with the party who spoke last to go first. The hearing will then conclude. Then the subcommittee will deliberate in private with the legal advisor and the clerk present. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. I will now ask all parties to confirm agreement on the proposed procedure or make representations. If we're all in agreement with that procedure, we will proceed. Okay, so the first representation would come from Deborah Moore.
Got licensing.
Oh, pardon me, I've gone from the... Yes, quite right, thank you. I would like to hand over to our licensing officer to present their report. Thank you.
An application has been made to permit the provision of late night refreshment between the hours of 11 p.m. and midnight on Sunday to Thursday, inclusive, until 5 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. 2 representations have been received on the grounds that granting the licence for the times requested would undermine the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective. One representation, as we heard, is from a local resident, and the other is from BCP Council's Environmental Health Department. No representations were received from any of the other responsible authorities. In addition, a representation in support of the application is attached at Appendix 5. Should this application be granted and the applicants fail to operate in accordance with their licence and any conditions attached to it, they will be aware that any of the responsible authorities or any other person may request a review of the licence at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do we have questions of the licensing officer? Councillor Hartman.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sarah. I wanted to understand a little bit more about the other premises along that stretch of Barrack Road and their current licensing hours. I know there's a KFC a few doors down. Do you have any information you can share to give us a bit of a broader understanding of the other late night refreshment premises and their operating hours? Thank you.
Yes, certainly. There's a Domino's at 113 Barrack Road, and they have late night refreshment until half midnight, Sunday to Thursday, and 1 a.m. Friday and Saturday. There's a Pure Cafe Pure 127, that doesn't have late night refreshment but has regulated entertainment and alcohol until 11 p.m. Top Walk 135 Barrack Road have off sales until 11 p.m. and 10:30 on a Sunday. Walk You Like, they have late night refreshment and off sales until 1 a.m. KFC is currently closed, but they were licensed for late night refreshment until midnight on Sunday to Thursday and 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. There's Dragon Palace at 215 Barrack Road. They have late night refreshment and on sales of alcohol on Monday to Saturday till midnight, Sunday until 11:30. And McDonald's Bailey Drive, which is off Barrack Road, have late night refreshment until 5 a.m. So between the licensable hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m.
Many thanks, Sarah.
Members. I would like to just expand a little. So my understanding is that outside of the McDonald's, all of the other outlets are on Barrack Road, and McDonald's is in a retail park that doesn't have residential presence.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you. Members, are there any other questions for the officer? Thank you. Do we have further questions for our licensing officer?
No, Chair.
You've already asked them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, we will move on.
We would usually go there, but the applicant's not coming. And
So yes, given the applicant has chosen not to make to attend today, we do have their written representation.
yeah, their application, we can consider all the detail. We'll just check on Deborah Moore, see if she's not joined us.
No message and no, not joined.
Okay, so we'll just go on to those making reps. So the environmental health officer.
Yes. So we will invite those present to ask questions of the application itself. Otherwise, we will be moving to persons supporting.
Yeah, it may be that we could do that down here. I think it might be worth you hearing what the environmental health officer say, because the applicant's not here to be answering any questions.
No,
So,
and the supporter isn't here either.
no, so I think it'd be.
So really, we would be moving to persons objecting.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move to hear from persons objecting, and we will start with Paul Barker, Environmental Health. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. It's a position of environmental health that we look at all these applications on their own merit. So we look at each one individually. So we look at the circumstances that surround each one if they want to go till this time in the morning. In the case of this Papa John's, it is surrounded by residential properties. It's got residential property above. Our experience is with the advent and the more popular things with Just Eat and things like this, delivery and things, the noise associated with these delivery drivers and things, it does cause disturbance to residents that are around. Obviously, the drivers and things, they're in their normal working day, so their behaviours reflect that. It's our opinion that this is just not suitable for that time in the morning. We've already had complaints about dough deliveries early hours of the morning. That was recently. So just one delivery at 5:30 in the morning was enough to instigate complaints. From our perspective, we just don't see it being suitable as being to be able to go through that time in the night.
Thank you. I'll move to members to ask any questions of our EHO.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to understand a little bit more, if it's okay, about complaints that you mentioned. So I know we've had one complaint that's sort of the details are in the papers. Have there been any other noise complaints? Could you give us a bit more information? You mentioned the dough delivery early in the morning there. Yeah, sort of, because am I right in saying as well, the current landlord is relatively new? So sort of that period from when they've been in control of the property, what has it looked like from a complaint perspective from that point to present? Thank you.
There were a number of complaints against this premises for various things. However, it was predating the current owners, so we haven't included them in the representation. The complaint about the noise that we received was on the 26th of October and the 30th of October 2024. There were complaints about deliveries at 5:30 in the morning, which were waking residents up next door, and they are attributed to this current ownership. There's been no other complaints since.
Thank you. And because I know as well mentioned was the noise of the refrigerator units. They're sort of going 24 hours. Have you had any complaints or comments regarding equipment associated with the premises?
I'm not aware of any on the system at the moment, Chair.
Sorry, I've got one final one if that's
Go on, you
okay.
go for it.
And I appreciate this isn't a licensing issue, but it's something that came up that I just wanted to raise, was the mention of vermin at the property. Could you, and I do appreciate this isn't licensing, but just from my own sort of ward councillor point of view, what is the environmental health situation with regards to that? So now that that's been raised, what measures are in place to ensure that that property, this premises, is adhering to the correct sort of food and hygiene standards?
When a food hygiene inspection takes place, their pest and waste control is all part of that inspection. They have to have an up-to-date pest services in place. I don't think it'd be appropriate to speak about the previous owners because they're not here to defend themselves. There were complaints in the past, but they haven't been addressed. This was prior to 2022. There haven't been any recently about pests and things.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Barker, for your answers.
I have one. Just sort of think of for Papa John's in general. Do you have many complaints about their properties generally within the facility? Just trying to, as they're not here to answer any questions. I just want to sort of get a feel for how they are for residents surrounding their shops generally in the area.
Which, I mean, Papa John's are a franchise, as you know, so it's not Papa John's as a whole that could be causing issues. It'd be each individual company or franchisee that owns it, and we deal with each one individually. As a general rule, Papa John's, no, we don't get a massive amount of complaints. We get the odd complaint now and again about noise and things like that, but we can generally sort those out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, members. Do you have any additional questions of the EHO? No. Okay. Mr. Fairbross, do you have questions of the Environmental Health Officer?
No, none come to mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In which case, we will move on to Mr. Fairbross to make representations on his objection.
Thank you, and thanks for having me here. And as you probably noticed, I'm not in my natural habitat, so if you feel like I'm going on, please jump in. I'd much rather it was a conversation than me just reading off a load of stuff. So I think really I want to put across two different sort of lines of thought here. One of them is on behalf of my tenants. So I lived at the property from 2016 till 2023. So, you know, about 7 years of experience living above the Papa John's restaurant. You know, you all have homes to go to. I'm sure, you know, you'll be able to empathise what it's like to live above somewhere. You've mentioned the refrigeration units. Living above a pizzeria has a significant impact on equality of life. So you'll have the air conditioning units that emit a low hum that you can feel vibrate in the property pretty much 24/7. There'll be occasions when they cut out, but then they switch back on again and you'll continue to hear that. And that'll be all through the night. So that's something that's already being tolerated. The telephone, you can actually hear the telephone when it rings when it's quiet. So it's not such a big issue during the day when there's a lot of noise going on around. And if you've got the TV on or if you're cooking or something like that, you're not going to notice it. But in the night time when you're asleep and the telephone rings, you'll hear that. And you'll also hear the conversation. And you'll also hear every customer who stands outside the property talks to their friends while they're waiting for the pizzas to be cooked. You'll also hear every conversation of the staff when they go outside to their break area, because it's a shared access. So the area that the staff use for smoking, for having a chat when they have their break, is directly below the kitchen, where you would normally have the window open. And the front of the shop is directly below one of the bedroom windows. So you've got disturbance from the customers, their cars, you've mentioned the vehicles. They quite often, even though it's double yellow, customers will just park up outside because it's a quick pop in and pop out. But obviously you get that disturbance. If it's a delivery, the motorbikes are constantly coming up onto the pavement, parking outside the property or in the shared access through the driveway. The door, so there's a door, it's like a heavy door between the customer area and the staff area. When that closes, it slams and it literally vibrates the property. You can actually feel that upstairs. So every time somebody passes through it, i.e. delivery drivers, when they go to the back, pick up the pizzas and come back out through the front, that door slams shut. You know, we've already heard about when the stock gets delivered at 5:30 in the morning. That used to wake me up pretty much every time. And you'll also have that experience if people are going in to pick up pizzas and coming out to do the deliveries through the night time. You'll feel every single time that door shuts. And then I think, you know, the other line of concern that I've got, which I appreciate is a little bit more selfish, is from the perspective of, you know, now a business owner, I'm the landlord of that property. So the property value is massively impacted by having a fast food restaurant underneath it. It used to be mortgageable because it was an antique store before Papa John's came along. It's no longer mortgageable. I can't get a loan from anyone. I've not been able to sell the property despite that being my first preference. So I now let it out. Finding a tenant was difficult. One of the main objections is they don't want to live above a pizza restaurant for all the reasons that we've just listed. Extending the hours until 5 a.m. or through the early hours of the morning would have a very significant impact on the lettability of the property, and it might even be prohibitive. And then you've gone from having a home with a family that are quite happy and settled there at the moment to potentially having a wasted housing unit, and then the obvious impact to me financially. So yeah, I invite any questions if you want any more detail on any of those things that I've mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you for that well-spoken representation. I will invite my colleagues to ask any further questions. Councillor Harman? Councillor Chapman?
So just to confirm, so your access is down the side between the new build block of flats and Papa John's, and that's where your driveway is it as well?
That's right, yeah. It's not our driveway, it's a shared access. There's also a house that uses it at the back. So you've got the little driveway, then you've got a little access, a tiny little footpath along the back, and then you've got the fire exit of Papa John's and the stairway up to the entrance to the flat, and that's all a shared route.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have concerns around the prevention of public nuisance when we're thinking about the licensing objectives. And if the applicant were here, I wanted to ask a question. In their application, they've mentioned that customers will be asked not to stand around talking in the street outside the premises and asked to leave the vicinity quickly and quietly. Thinking about the logistics of that, sort of, it's already happened, and then the sort of resolution comes after, and thinking about the impact upon the public nuisance that then would have inevitably been caused by the time the resolution's there. I just wondered if you had any comments on that in the absence of the applicant, because it is something that I'm struggling to see how this solution we're given here would help prevent that. I wonder if you had any comments.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't see there's any way that they can actually control how the customer behaves. quite often it's some young lads that are on a bike or something like that. You know, they'll stand around outside waiting for their pizza to be cooked. They're not going to go away and sit in a park somewhere at 2 a.m. and then come back when the pizza is ready. So I really don't see how that can be enforced.
You mentioned that it was previously an antique shop. Do you recall which year it became a Papa John's?
No, I don't remember. So my dad used to own the flat. And so he has MS. He left the country and lived in Tenerife for a while, and that's when it first became a let property. He wasn't aware that the business was changing from an antiques to a fast food takeaway, and obviously that had a significant impact on him. I think it would have been around 2010, but because he was out of the country, like I say, and he wasn't aware of that, he had no chance to sort of appeal that initial decision.
Thank you. And so, since you were resident there and also landlord, it has been the pizza restaurant.
Yep, that's right. It's always been Papa John's. It's been a very different business under previous owners, and I will say, you know, the guys that run the shop now are much friendlier and more cooperative, but it doesn't take away from the fact just the operating of that business has a significant impact on us.
Thank you. Further questions, members?
No.
Yes, I'll pass over to our legal advisor who would like to ask the EHR a quick question.
Just to assist us, Mr. Barker, we've heard the number of complaints about the noise from Mr. Fairbrass. So, and some of them are, I would have thought, resolvable. You know, like a door banging, we can have a door closure with a telephone ringing, types of things like that. You can have a more silent thing. We could even condition for staff not to be gathering outside, to move away from the property if they're going on a break. But obviously some of them will be not resolvable. As you've already said, you're always going to have customers coming backwards and forwards to pick up. So it was just from an environmental health point of view. Are there ways that some of the issues could be resolved by condition, or is it some of it just not resolvable? You know, structural work, I mean, we haven't got the applicant here. It's very difficult to see, to ask them, but when they're not here, but it was just a view really from your point of view.
Chair, we could ask for what's called a noise impact assessment, whereby the internal noise generated by the business, they could get an acoustic company in to look at mitigation between the top floor flat and the actual business itself. This would include noise from plant machinery and things like that. There's lots of attenuation schemes can be done. It is not cheap, it is expensive. The attenuation, not just the survey itself is expensive, any attenuation works itself. Looking at the business where it is, it would be expensive for them to do. It would be a business decision for them to make, whether or not it's viable. In respect of people outside, the target customer base for that time in the morning, generally they're going to have been drinking. it's difficult to talk and reason with people that have been drinking at that time in the morning. Noise from engines and things, there's not a great deal you can do apart from ask them to turn them off. But by the time they've approached, slammed the car doors, the damage is done. People have woken up by that point. There are a lot of businesses that successfully operate like this, but they don't have residents so close around them. Apart from mitigation schemes in the building itself, I can't see how the outside noise that the business could do much to mitigate it, to be quite honest.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions of the objectors? At this point, we move to sum up. So each person who's made representations today will be able to sum up with the party who spoke last to go first.
Mr. Fairbrass.
Mr. Fairbrass, would you like to sum up your position today?
Okay, yeah, that I oppose the licence on the grounds that it has a significant impact on the quality of life of people that live in the flat above it, and it also has a significant impact on me from a perspective as a landlord and property owner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Barker, do you have a summing up for us?
No, Chair, I think I've made all my points quite clear. In respect to environmental health, if this licence were to be granted, I could see us receiving complaints and having to be back in front of the committee to review it again very quickly.
Thank you for that assessment. Members, any closing statements? Thank you. Officers, Sarah, do you have a statement to sum up?
No, thank you.
Okay. Linda, any comments?
No, nothing from me.
Okay. In which case, at this point, we will conclude the hearing. And the subcommittee will deliberate in private with our legal advisor and clerk present. The notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which this hearing was held. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. I'd like to thank you all for your representations today, and we will be in contact in due course.
Thank you for having me.
Very welcome.